ex-girlfriend Abby is a witch, and I'm not being sarcastic about that. We dated for about a year. She was into witchcraft, dark arts, spells, and all the sorts. And I tried to be open-minded about it, but I was a recently born-again Christian, and after a while, our belief systems didn't mesh, and ultimately, that was what split us apart. I'd want to go to church on Sundays, while she wanted to collect rocks and build an altar for her spirit guide. It just wasn't working out. I was the one to break up with her. It was messy. She cried and begged me to stay. She said she could change my mind, but I was already withdrawn from the relationship and just didn't want to continue. Recently after the breakup, Abby would call me and text me every day to get back together. It got so bad, I had to block her number. After a few months of not hearing anything from her by social media or friends, I came to the conclusion that she finally moved on. Boy, was I wrong. About 6 months after we split up, I started seeing this girl Jamie that I met from church. Jamie was over my house one night. We were having wine and watching a scary movie that I rented from Redbox. We weren't watching much of the movie when there was a loud knock at my door. Who would be knocking this late at night? Frustrated at the interruption, I got up and went to the door. I looked out my peephole. Nothing. I opened the door, and there was no one there, just an empty neighborhood before me. I shut the door, pissed that maybe kids were playing a prank on us. Sorry about that, I said, walking back into the living room. That's when I froze in fear. Someone had a knife pressed against Jamie's throat. She squealed and tried to break free from her captor, but they only pushed the knife further into her neck, threatening to break the skin. What do you want? Please don't hurt her. Here, take my money. I threw $100 at the feet of the intruder. That's when the person holding the knife to Jamie's throat hood fell back. And in the low light of my living room, I looked horrifyingly at Abby. My fight or flight kicked in. Without pondering the consequences, I plunged at her. I tackled both Abby and Jamie to the ground. The knife flew from her hand. I quickly put Abby into a chokehold and told Jamie to call the police. Abby didn't struggle or resist. While I had her in the chokehold, she was murmuring in a language that I did not understand. When the police arrived 10 minutes later, they took our statements and put Abby in the back of the squad car. We found out later that night from the lead detective that Abby was planning on making a love potion to get me back. The main ingredient? The blood of an enemy. And Jamie was the enemy. And I'm sad to inform you that Jamie and I stopped dating after that. She was too traumatized by the experience, and quite frankly, I don't blame her. And I haven't been on any dates since, and honestly, I don't think I plan to for a long time. This took place in the summer of 2019. Me and my girlfriend Samantha at the time had been dating for a little over 6 months. Now I'm not the one to stay in relationships when I can feel that they are not growing, and I decided it was time to end things with her. It was hard, I'll admit that, but I'd rather end a dying relationship than cling to its lifeless bones. I broke up with her in a gentle, calm way. Even though I was done with her, I did not want to crush her spirit. Samantha cried and said she didn't want to break up, but respected my decision and couldn't force me to stay if I did not want to. It hurt, hearing how understanding she was, but again, I knew that it had to be done. A week after we broke up, I got home super late from my job. I was exhausted and just wanted to plop into bed, but that's when I noticed that my front door was wide open. Immediately, I knew something was off. I always shut and lock my door before I go to work, always. I would never leave it open like this. My heart pounded in my chest. Was someone in there? Had I been robbed? I grabbed a golf club out of the trunk of my car and entered my house. Everything seemed normal, nothing out of place, nothing broken, nothing missing that I could see so far. But that all changed when I walked into the kitchen. I turned on the lights. Written in red on my window facing the backyard was, "You break my heart, I break yours." I was frozen to the spot. Then I realized another thing. I haven't seen my cat Fluffy yet. I walked over to the window, which was above my sink. My jaw dropped. In the garbage disposal below, Fluffy, or whatever was left of her, was stuffed into it, not moving. That's when I noticed that the message was written in blood. Fluffy's blood. And after I puked, I called the police. I have a security system, and we were able to pull up the footage from that night. I watched in disgust as I saw what Samantha did. When the police went to go arrest her, she did not deny it. She confessed to it all, and even seemed happy about it. Instead of pressing charges, I opted for Samantha to be sent to a hospital to help her with her mental condition. I'm still traumatized to this day about what happened, and Samantha has still yet to be released from the hospital. Quite frankly, I hope she never does. It boggles my mind that I once shared such intimate times with her, unbeknownst to me that she was capable of these actions all along. And while I still have some healing to deal with, my heartstrings pull for my cat Fluffy. She was innocent in all of this and did not deserve to die in such a horrible way. I guess the saying is true. Love really does kill. I broke up with my girlfriend Lisa after 4 months of dating. To be honest, she was just too lazy. She expected me to do everything, foot every bill, cater to her every need, and refused to get a job. I'd had enough and realized that I deserved much better. When I broke up with her, she took it pretty harshly. I think she was afraid because who else would take care of her the way I did? I know this sounds harsh, but I just didn't care. It wasn't my problem anymore, and I just left. About a month after the breakup, I'm sound asleep in my house when the front door bursts open. Police officers swarm in, guns drawn, and they handcuff me. Confused, terrified, and baffled, I ask what's going on. Why am I being arrested? They don't say anything and throw me in the back of a police car and take me down to the station. I'm sitting alone in the interrogation room when a detective walks in. He shows me pictures of Lisa. She's all bloodied up and cut. He said that she's badly injured, but expected to make a full recovery. Then he looked me directly in the eyes. "Why did you do it?" I gasped. I told him I had nothing to do with this. I would never hurt Lisa. But here's where it gets worse. The detective informed me that Lisa was the one who called the police and told them that I did this to her. I was so stunned, and I was momentarily speechless. I pled my case, explaining how I was home the entire time, and that I would never do such a thing. The detective looked at me in disbelief and left the room. 5 hours pass, and the detective walks back in. This time his demeanor is calmer. He informed me that they found a bloody knife thrown away in Lisa's trash can. The prints on it all matched hers, and none matched mine. It turns out Lisa staged a fake assault. She tried to put the blame on me, but didn't do a good enough job, and instead incriminated herself. The detective sincerely apologized to me and let me go. Lisa was now in custody and will be charged with the same crimes that I would have been charged with. And I have no idea why Lisa would do such a thing. And as badly as I want to feel bad for her, I can't. If they hadn't discovered that bloody knife with her fingerprints, I could be in some serious trouble for something that I did not do. And I still shudder to this day at how bad things could have turned out. And I haven't seen Lisa since. I think her prison sentence was about 4 years. Not long enough if you ask me. To say that I have trust issues because of this incident would be putting it mildly, to say the least.